Getting together for a quick bit of a chat in our Recovery Partners webinar series. So today we're talking about a bit about consultation and specifically why consultation doesn't work. I'll hand you over to our host. He can explain a bit more about the process, and then we'll kick it off.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Nick. Bit of table tennis here back and forth, which is great. So welcome aboard, everyone, and Happy New Year. This is the first webinar for 2025 for Recovery Partners. And yeah, really pleased to hear and see that we've got many more throughout the year. So yeah, we look forward to having you at our future webinars as well. So today we're talking about consultation. Now, there's so many different things around consultation, what works, what doesn't, what's legally required, what can pass as what's deemed as compliant through regulators and acts and things like that. So the whole purpose for today is to really try and navigate you through some of the fine print, as we may call it, and give you some practical expertise on how to get you through there. Yes, again, there are so many ways we can't cover exactly what will work and what won't. Each organisation is very unique and different in their own way, but we hope to provide you with some insights, some principles there that you can further take from this today and apply to your very own workplace. If there are any questions following this presentation today, we do ask that you wait till the end. We will have a Q&A section. And if there is any questions following today's presentation, feel free to reach out to our event organisers, and we'll be more than happy to organise a phone or a video call individually to help guide you through that further. So it's just funny. I just, before I pass it over back to Nick to present the main course, I guess it's just, we all know how important consultation is within the workplace. I know my second job, which is being a father and partner to my partner at home. We've got a 3 and a 5-year-old son, so 2 boys. We've just adopted a rescue dog, and why I'm saying this is because the tag team approach that my partner and I are playing at the moment with managing what goes on with the children and the new rescue dog, it is really, really critical. So yeah, it's again just really unique on the information that we provide each other, how we provide it. We write it on boards, we communicate it via text message, in person, things like that. So there are lots of different media that we can do it in, and again, we want to be able to provide you with some principles to think about that you can apply to your very own workplace. Thanks for the clap, whoever that was from. It's certainly a organised chaos in my household. But anyways, without ado, I will pass you over through to Nick for the main event, and we look forward to seeing any questions that we can potentially help out with from there. Over to you, Nick. Thank you.
Thanks, Stu. So, just a quick intro on myself. I've worked across many different industries, from hospitality to manufacturing to construction to services like mechanics and call-out techs, IT, infrastructure projects. So I've got a wide range of experience in different industries. So it helps me sort of deal with issues and stuff in those industries where I say, look, I didn't just read this from a book. I've actually been and done what you guys are doing. I've got over 10 years experience in WHS specifically, and before that I was always involved in WHS committees, bodies, organisations and things like that. And I took it further and decided to go to uni, get a degree in the field, and then went back for another diploma. So I've had quite a length of experience in this field, and yeah, and this is our first event as safety partners. I know a lot of you are invited by Recovery Partners, but you can see on the screen it says safety partners. So our safety operation is splitting off into its own organisation, our safety consultancy arm. So we are still under Recovery Partners, but just want to introduce our new branding of Safety Partners. So if you have any WHS questions or concerns, you see Safety Partners come up, believe you're still dealing with the same organisation, the same people. We just want to fly under our own flag. So what we're going to talk about today, consultation. Now, we've all heard plenty of times consultation is critical, and it is. It's one of the main pillars of our WHS principles, regulations, and approach in Australia, right? Consultation with workers on safety. But the issue we have now is the traditional consultation structures of the Health and Safety Committee, Health and Safety reps reporting is not working for more and more organisations. And this is for a variety of reasons that we'll get into in a sec. So it's still critical to have that consultation compliance and to ensure that you're doing it. But how do we do it if we can't stick to the traditional structures? So we're going to talk about why this traditional approach is starting to struggle and not keep up. What are the options out there, and how do I meet the legal obligation using these other options? So why are health and safety committees and reps struggling? Well, put it simply, there's a number of factors. Now, we'll start off with health and safety representatives. Health and safety representatives are quite often, it's a secondary part to their role, right? Now, on a major construction site, the health and safety reps, usually that's what they do. They spend their time doing health and safety, and they're well versed in the role, they're well versed with their duties, responsibilities, and stuff like that. But in a different situation, as you can see in the example there, a cleaner, they might only do that 10% of the time, because the rest of the time its operations is normal. And that starts creating, the HSR, the health and safety responsibilities start getting sidelined, start getting forgotten for other priorities. Companies also are a little bit scared of health and safety reps because a health and safety rep, if they become malicious, can use their powers against the company to start, putting in improvement notices, reporting to regulators, whether there's foundation for the reports or not. And that worries companies giving a person that much power over them. They're scared to invest in with that power because the person, as I've listed in the example there, they might go above the management, as the HSRs, right, go directly to the regulator. Is that the best approach? No, I always recommend consulting within the company first and try and sort out the issue before you bring in outside parties. But again, you can't control what that HSR does. So for these reasons, companies are very scared of nominating a HSR and properly training them up and investing in with that power. Now, health and safety committees are becoming less effective, effective and even popular because of the logistical organisation of trying to get a group of people together from various places. But there's a lot of lack of interest from workers as well, because quite often this is lumped as an additional task onto them. It's not organised properly where time is taken out of their normal duties for this, because this becomes part of their normal duties, their health and safety responsibilities. And they're forced to do that on top of their extra work. So it becomes extra. Therefore, not a lot of uptake quite often from workers in it. Now, on top of that, companies are often reluctant to share a lot of information with workers, details about incidents, records of hazards, records of issues, disputes, all that sort of stuff. A lot of companies view this, well, that's sensitive information, we're not going to release that, or you can just have the stats, which makes it very hard to actually dig down and find issues and, provide resolution on them. Now, this isn't always because the company's hesitant to do so. It could just be simply because of the way the reporting and recording system for incidents, hazards, and all that information is set up. It's hard to access. It's hard to pull out of a central server. That person, the rep or the health and safety committee member, doesn't have the access, so they have to go to another manager, who has to go to another manager, and it becomes a huge process. So that could be, part of the way it was set up originally could be the issue. Now, if that information comes through, quite often it comes through very late, or it's only made available at the meetings. So therefore, the Health and Safety Committee members, they don't have time to properly review this information, investigate, find out causes, contributing factors, and come up with proper controls. It's all expected to be done within that half hour, 1 hour meeting of the committee. Now, talking about membership in the committee, as I said earlier, workers see it as extra work. Therefore, there's quite often very, very little uptake. I can't think of the amount of times that I've, gone into with clients to set up committees, to set up WHS bodies within the organisation, and you ask, yep, does anyone want, and you're met with a resounding silence. And then management just ends up going, okay, well, you, and do it. Those people don't have a lot of buy-in because they've just been told to do it. They might not be interested. They probably won't care as much as somebody who sticks their hand up. I'm not saying that's all the time, but it is quite a common occurrence. This creates, disinterest in the committee. Yeah, they go over the stats, they go over the hazards. Is there any real buy-in? No. And without any real buy-in, are they going to deliver any useful resolutions? No. So the other issue we see is we get a lot of management representation, and it outbalances the worker representation on a committee. So all of a sudden, the committee becomes basically a management meeting. And this is exacerbated even further if the committee is chaired by a very senior management or CEO, which I have seen before, when it really should be an elected worker representative. There needs to be some management representation in the committee to help decisions, help guide resolutions and stuff like that. From a management perspective, it's a consultation, it's a two-way conversation, but it can't outweigh the worker representation, because workers, will then not feel comfortable and not feel represented fully in their meeting. They might feel scared to speak up on issues and really get into why this happened, because they might not want to say, well, the company did something wrong here in front of their managers. Especially, again, if you've got a senior manager chairing the committee, it becomes a dictation session where the managers make a decision, dictate to the worker representatives, and you go back and tell them that. It stops being an actual discussion. And the frequency of committee meetings traditionally held every quarter, once every 3 months. That's a long time between meetings. And it's understandable, especially on a widespread and a large scale organisation, it can be hard to get people together. Even with all our digital platforms, times might not match. We all have competing priorities, meetings, clients that need to be seen, whatever it is. So to make weekly, monthly meetings becomes very difficult. But without that frequency of meeting, once a quarter, that's a long time. If an issue gets raised or a hazard, that's a long time to wait for a resolution or an outcome or a decision, right? So for all these reasons, we're finding that they're not working, that this traditional structure is really not working for people. To summarize, it's that lack of training or ongoing training for committee members. They don't know what they're supposed to do. Yeah, I'm a committee member. What do I do now? Lack of support from senior management. As I said before, that, not enough allocation of time and resources. No, that's not part of your normal duties. This is an extra thing you've got to do in some other time that you've got to find in the day. And that puts a lot of people off, where it should be seen as, no, if you're a committee member or representative, this is part of your normal duty. Poor agenda management. So, there might be a minor hazard that they spend 3 meetings discussing, whereas a major one gets ignored. Again, without that training, without guidance on what they're doing in that committee or as a rep, they don't know where to focus their energy, and therefore the resources get spent on the wrong thing. And poor communication, and we'll talk about that, back to the rest of the organisation. So decisions not being communicated, outcomes not being communicated. And that's a very critical thing. So what's the alternative? If we say these traditional structures aren't working, so how do we go about it? Because we do have a legal duty to consult with workers. Well, first step is, and it's very important, decide what's going to work for your organisation. And what do you base this decision on? Well, the size of the organisation, the amount of workers you have, the demographic of workers. So, you know, I wouldn't drag 12 guys off a construction site to sit in a boardroom for 2 hours. They'd go crazy in there. They're used to being active, being out, doing stuff. So maybe that's a better place to have a meeting with them, right? What are your preferred methods of communication within your company already? If you guys never meet face-to-face for meetings, everything's done via email, Teams conversations, it's going to be very unfamiliar and off-putting to drag everyone into a committee meeting or something similar. So what are the communications you're using? What existing systems of consultation and communication already exist? Do you have platforms like Teams that we're using now that you guys always meet on? Do you use an intranet system that has a communication function? All these things need to be taken into account when deciding what works and what doesn't for you. Once you've determined what you can do, or what you need from the consultation and what parameters you needed to work in, you can then start deciding, well, okay, how do we consult? And next 2 slides are just a couple of examples of how consultation can work. So for a smaller organisation, you know, 20, 25 people, one location or one location and out in the field somewhere to do jobs and coming back to that location, we can do toolbox talks, right? We just get everyone together, we cover a topic and we communicate any safety matters. Just unofficial conversations. As managers move around the floor, they can talk to their workers. Again, it's not a large group. It's not hard to get around to talk to everyone within a reasonable period of time. Email updates. You know, we all communicate digitally now. We all have access to email. Most of it just comes up like a message on our phone these days. There's no special, I need to get into my emails. So for emailing things out. And I mentioned before, if you have an intranet, a WHS page for the intranet's a great way to communicate and consult. So you can put things up there. Hey, we have this new procedure. Hey, we have this new hazard everyone needs to be aware of. And everyone, as they log in to get their job sheets or whatever they're logging in there for, will see that. So you've ticked your communication and consultation box with those things. For a larger organisation, there might be a bit more requirement to keep records and actually generate records of this consultation. So you notice on the smaller one, there was only really one there, the toolbox meeting is the only one that, and the emails generate records. The rest is more of an unofficial, unstructured conversation. And by all means, some of these can be applied to a smaller organisation, but if you have a larger organisation, you're setting off on a specific project, specific task to be complete, you might put together a WHS party or committee just for that purpose with the people from there, and they can discuss things specific to that. Or have if your company already does entire team meetings, include safety into those meetings. So safety topics that need to be covered, they become mandatory items on a staff meeting. This might occur monthly and it can get covered that way. And any messaging, any items that need to be pushed across can be discussed then. For those of us in construction, you're probably well familiar with this system, but the system of pre-start briefings is a great way to do consultation, because you discuss exactly what's happening for that day, any hazards, any changes to procedure, anything that people need to be aware of, and you're getting their feedback on, you know, hey, we did this yesterday, today we're doing this, did everything go smoothly yesterday? Is there anything we need to change from yesterday to make it better? Teleconferences, town hall meetings, similar to this, can be done digitally. Again, it's that whole company, bring it together, but include safety in there. If you don't want to call it just for a safety reason, make sure safety is included and recorded in the minutes or however you guys record your meetings, that safety was included and this is what we're talking about. It doesn't have to be war and peace. It doesn't have to be an exact word for word transcript of what was said. A few dot points that, yeah, we raised this issue. This is the feedback we were given by the workers. Extra support and training and mentoring for workers, not just on how to do their job, but WHS principles, topics, and things like that, is a great way to do it. Start instilling that into them straight away and have the consultation as part of their training. That way, as part of their training, it's not just you dictating to them, you're getting feedback from them as to, well, I don't think that's a good idea. And you'll be surprised how often you get fresh insights that way, because we all get complacent. Well, we've been doing it this way for 20 years. Someone fresh comes along and goes, why don't we do it this way? You might, get an eye-opening perspective on that. And if there is a serious issue or an urgent matter that does need to be discussed and decided on, you can always call a one-off meeting for that topic, get everyone together, discuss it, close it out, generate a record of it. So, some other ways of consultation that are starting to become very popular that I've noticed as I get around different workplaces and things. The use of services like SurveyMonkey or similar, and I'm not promoting SurveyMonkey in any way. If I do mention platforms here, I'm not trying to promote them. I'm not doing advertising for them. It's just examples that I've seen as I go around. You can put out procedures through that, say, hey, everyone, we've just created this new process for doing this. Please provide your feedback. And that goes out to everyone. You give it a reasonable window of time for them to provide feedback and then take in any feedback that has been provided. If none's been provided, that's fine. You can still tick your box as a PCBU and go, well, I've done my consultation bit. No feedback was provided, but I gave the opportunity. I provided a forum for the feedback and I was ready to take it on board. Other ways it can be done through Teams. Teams is a brilliant platform. You can do similar to what we're doing now. You can use the chat function in Teams, again, just to put up a big post to say, hey, we're doing this, please provide your feedback. And people can write, respond comments to that post. Those are obviously identified. SurveyMonkey or those similar ones are better for if providing anonymous feedback. So if workers don't particularly want to put their name to the feedback they're going, and again, we said earlier, workers can be scared to speak up quite often on issues because they don't want to rock the boat. This will allow them to provide feedback without that conception. Well, I don't want to be the one that said the bad thing. It's a great way to get feedback and get buy-in on things. And the more you do this, the more workers will get a buy-in because they'll start getting used to it. Oh, this is not a once-off. These people actually take safety seriously. I'm going to start participating in this because they feel like they're being heard. And lastly, safety alerts and memos. I preach about these all the time. It's a great way to, communicate about risk and a great way to show that your organisation is considering risk as part of it, as part of their operations. So when you send out something like this, whether it be, hey guys, it's going to be wet on the roads today as you're travelling around to different jobs, please be aware of this. Or, the one we sent around to a lot of people recently, coming into snake season, hey, everyone, if you're working outside, please be careful. This is where snakes like to hide. This is what you should do if a snake comes. This is great because you get to communicate that information to the workers, but in the same way, you create a record of that communication. So again, it ticks that box for you of compliance, right? Again, these can be communicated in a number of ways. Traditional email, post it on the notice board. If you've got an intranet, post it up again on the WHS page of your intranet to say, hey, everyone here, email it out, put it in chat, SMS it out. A lot of companies use WhatsApp chats now. You can do it through a WhatsApp chat. All of those are fine. All of those are fine. The only advice I would give is don't stick to just one method. Double up just to make sure that the message has been heard. So if you, for instance, have an intranet page, you put your safety memo up there, I always recommend go and put a physical copy up in the break room or wherever is appropriate, because not everyone is digitally savvy. Not everyone's interested in accessing the intranet all the time. That way you're covering both of those sides of the coin. People that are digital, they'll see it, go, yep, perfect. Other people will see it on the wall. So don't just stick to one approach. So consultation and communication. These are the basis of what we're talking about. Consultation is communication. So what are some barriers that we see to communication that we see quite often? Time and timing is very important to a message. Is 4 o'clock on a Friday, just before someone's about to go to leave, a great time to discuss a complex question that you need their full attention and buy-in on? No, because you're not going to get it. They're mentally checked out, right? So you've got to pick your time and place. Environmental factors. Again, I'm not going to have an in-depth discussion with somebody in the middle of a nightclub dance floor. Why? Because we're going to be shouting at each other and we're not going to understand what we're saying. The message complexity as well. If it's a really complex question, it might not be a good idea just to bombard that person with information and questions. Break it up, have a few different discussions on different parts of it. Individual factors. The most common one we come across is language. We're a very multicultural society. Not everyone has a full grasp of English, especially when you start talking about some complex terms and concepts and words that they might not have come across before. You'll lose people very quickly. There's some, we've all got Google, we've all got translating services available to us online. Maybe it's worth putting the information down as written and communicating as a written thing in their language. Again, you'll be surprised at the increase in buy-in that you get from workers when they see that you're making an effort to communicate with them. They will make an effort to understand the communication. Perceptions, prejudice, and stereotyping. I hate these ones. I've been on the receiving end of them myself. I won't name the company, but when I was a lowly 18-year-old security guard at a place, I had to escort the owner of a company back to their vehicle and said something prosaic to them, just say hello, I hope everything's going well. The person didn't even deign to turn and look at me because, I own the company, you work for me. And honestly, the number one thing I remember about that is the negative feeling I then had about working there. So, well, hang on, I'm here, protecting your stuff, helping you, and you won't even say, yeah, hi, thanks to me. And unfortunately, it does happen. So maybe it's best to consider that when you're communicating with people. Well, am I going to feel like I'm dictating these people because I'm the CEO? And, try and get away from that. Try and make sure everyone understands we're all just people. We're just trying to work together to achieve a common goal, right? And that goes into that self-image and status of the person. These are all perceptions. We're all just people at the end of the day. If we need to communicate with each other, we should just be able to communicate with each other and talk to each other, right? And inconsistency of the message. If you come out and say something and 5 minutes later it's different, and then 5 minutes later it changes again, it's very hard to follow what the communication is, what you're trying to communicate. And on top of that, it's going to remove the credibility from any further communications. Well, no, I'm not going to listen to that person. They just keep changing their minds. The mixed messages I'm getting, it's too confusing, goes into too hard basket, the person tunes out. So how can we increase our effectiveness of communication consultation? Well, we've got to make sure it's a two-way flow. I mentioned that earlier a few times, and it really needs to be a two-way flow. You got to listen as well as talk. Understand others, understand what their barriers may be to receiving your communication. So, is the message too complex? It's the wrong time. Keep in mind, you can't win an argument. In this case, there's not going to be a winner. There's going to be one person who possibly was right and one person who's now very upset. There's no winner. Both those people will not go back to work with each other easily, right? So don't let it get to that stage. Make sure everyone feels considered. Make sure everyone feels, that their opinion is valued and is taken on board. And if there is a difference of opinion, find a way to settle it before it gets to an argument. Even if that resolution be, well, okay, let's agree to disagree. We have both our different approaches. We need to find a common ground. So move it away from, no, I'm right to you're right. Okay, guys, you both may be right. Let's find a common ground where we can compromise and agree on the situation. Make sure information's simple, clear, and concise. It's easier to be received that way. Don't get defensive as soon, and this comes with that argument thing. As soon as you're trying to argue with someone or devalue their opinion, they become defensive. They're not listening anymore. As soon as they're defensive, fight and flight response kicks in. They're just going to deny you on principle because they're now defensive and they're feeling a little bit upset. Feelings are sometimes, in this case, more important than fact. I'm a big proponent of fact. If the facts say this, that's what it is. But in this situation, feelings can be important because, as I said, if you offend a person's feelings or that they feel strongly about an opinion that you then put down, they're going to go into that defensiveness mode. You're going to create that argument. And again, nothing's going to get resolved. It's just going to escalate and become more complex situation. So when a person's speaking, try to understand, why is this important? Why are they speaking on it? Why is it important to them? What can we do to make them feel that we've heard them and we value what they've put in? And I said, communication, big part of communication is physical, right? So pick your time and place, pick your situation, pick how you communicate with the person. Again, as I said earlier, if I grabbed a labourer off a construction site and sat him in a boardroom and started talking to him, the way he's going to receive that message is very different. Oh, this is very official. It's all very threatening. These people are talking at me around a big table. What's going on? They're not used to that environment. You're going to get quite a different response if you go out to site to them and talk to them on site. Whether you pull them aside, I wouldn't do it in front of everyone. Have a one-on-one conversation there. Again, time and place and the physical side of it creates a big difference in how your message is received. So, just wanted to give you a great example of good communication. I'm a big fan of the phrase photo or a picture says 1,000 words, right? I can write a paragraph describing the next photo you're going to see. I can write more than a paragraph describing exactly what's been done wrong here. And someone can spend an hour reading that page and they still might not get the idea. Maybe it's easier just to send a photo to explain what you're talking about. So have a look at the next photo and chuck in the chat for me. What's the major hazard? And what's the quickest way to resolve the situation to make the situation safe? It's not a photo of a barbecue at my house, thank God. Ouch, yeah, definitely. Get them out of the water, yeah. Isolate, yeah. Yeah, isolate the power. That is the major hazard. Everything else can be dealt with, and it's definitely not a safe arrangement there. A floorboard floating in some slides. Yeah, isolate the power straight away. Exactly. Now, if I told you, oh, there's a floorboard powering some stuff, it's floating on some flotation devices and in some water, lid on the drink. Yeah. You don't want that mixing, or you don't want your pool water mixing into your drink, really. Yeah, be careful of the table tearing the liner on the pool as well. I could spend ages describing that, and it doesn't give you the sense of urgency and the sense of danger that picture does. As soon as I show you that picture, no, this is what I was describing. Oh my God, we can't let that continue, as was everyone's reaction in the chat. We need to stop this right away. So yeah, and the answer is correct. Yeah, isolate the power, get them out of the pool, and then once the power is confirmed and isolated, we can dismantle this construction they've come up with. So, little quick self-assessment quiz for you. Don't need to put your answers in the chat. This is just for you guys to do in your head. Am I hitting all my markers for consultation? Am I being compliant? So, question 1, management nominates employees to sit on the health and safety committee at your organisation, yes or no? Employees are not aware of what the HSE does. Yeah, they know that it exists, but do they actually know what it does, what it's for? Workers, again, not aware of who their HSRs are and who their HSCs are. A high number of employees that are HSC members won't attend meetings. So every time you're struggling to get a quorum at a meeting, say you got 10 people, 3 turn up, if that. And you're very management heavy in the committee. There's 10 management representatives to 2 workers. If you've answered yes to any of those questions, chances are you've got a consultation problem in your organisation that needs to be fixed, whether it's by adopting a new approach, promoting more. That's for you guys to decide based on what your organisational needs are. But if you've answered yes to one or more of these questions, there's an issue with consultation in the organisation. So if you've answered yes, do we need to look at other consultation arrangements? Again, these ones, it's not a straight. Is the HSC under-resourced? Quite often, yes, it is. So if you've answered yes to that, there's a good chance you need to look at another consultation method rather than the committee. Is there already other methods of consultation? I see this all the time in organisations that they already have a monthly meeting where they discuss safety. They do pre-starts before every project and job. They do this. They have regular safety communication through, a safety chat that they have on a platform like Teams. And then on top of that, they're trying to wedge a committee into there. Is the committee actually going to add anything more to the process? Probably not. They're already communicating. They're already got it on top. Everyone feels heard. Why are we wedging the committee in there? Why? Because they heard somewhere, well, you've got to have a safety committee. So they heard that. They're going to try and wedge it in there. Are senior management part of the solutions? Do they participate in the solutions, or are they more of a barrier? If at every meeting you go think, well, how are we going to get this past senior management to get the resolution we want? There's an issue there. And is the consultation process being promoted at work? So what does the consultation process do? That's great to explain to them, but what are the outcomes? What does it actually achieve? And that's really important, to tout those wins, to say, hey, we had this issue, and as a committee, through the consultation process, we got your guys' feedback and we've taken your opinions on board, and here's the new procedure we've come up with based on what you guys have told us. Workers love to hear that because they feel they've contributed to the way they perform the task. And again, you tick your consultation requirements. If no one hears about this, so what's the point of it? What do they actually do? So, getting towards the end now. What do we do? How do we change the system? Well, the first thing is come up with a plan, right? Now, again, as I said before, you need to determine the needs of your organisation based on how many people, geographical locations, spread. You could have people all over the country. You could have people overseas in different time zones. What are the methods of communications? Is there fast decisions required due to high-risk situations that could come up? So the person can't wait for a month for a resolution. They need a decision now. Great example of this is a police pursuit. When the police pursue someone, they must do a risk assessment before that pursuit is initiated. So you quite often see on the police shows, they're calling in road conditions, speed, other traffic around. Why? Because there's someone on the other end doing a risk assessment. Now, can they wait a month for an assessment on that? These are hazard factors. Are we right to go ahead? Yeah, hang on, we'll run it past the committee. We'll get back to you in a month. No, the situation was already resolved itself in other ways. So it's really important to think of those things. Again, what's the level of issues? Is it something that's going to come up once every 2 months, or is it something that's daily? We're going to have 5 or 6 things to resolve. All these things need to be considered. Second, come up with a plan of action. So once you've determined your needs and the resources and the preferred methods, come up with a plan of action. Once you come up with a plan of action, make sure you stick to it. I've seen a lot of places get to this stage and then this plan just sits there. Yeah, well, we put a lot of work into this, yeah, but the job's not complete. All right, so your primary thing could be, all right, we've addressed the factors, we've identified everything, here's the communications and the consultation systems we're going to put in place for us. That's your primary intervention. Secondary will be, all right, well, how do we stop people getting missed by that? How do we make sure it's inclusive as possible? All this sort of stuff. If people are getting missed, what are we going to do to intervene? So plan ahead for issues that are going to come up. And Tertiary, implement those systems that you've come up with. So as I said before, it's really important to communicate what has the communication, what has the committee and the consultation process achieved. I have seen so many WHS systems and programs fail purely on this factor, because there's no feedback back to the workers. Yes, hazards are reported, hazards are actioned, and quite often resolved, but no one then goes back to the workers and go, hey, that hazard you raised, this is what we've done about it, or that situation you mentioned, this is what we're going to do about it. And that's a big part of it, because workers will get to the point where, why am I reporting things and nothing ever comes back? Nothing gets done. They don't know that for valid reasons, you might have discounted their suggestion. Even if it's a negative outcome, you should communicate that. Go back to them and go, look, thank you for the report. Thank you for raising the issue. Thank you for the suggestion. We've discussed it. And for X, Y, Z reasons, we're not going to go forwards with it. And you might find they might have more to contribute at that point. To go, oh, okay, I didn't consider those factors. Well, then how about this? And you might get a solution from that, right? But if workers don't hear back, they're going to stop participating. They're just going to go, what's the point? Why am I spending my time filling out hazard reports? I know I have to, but I'll just do the bare minimum. If I have a quota of 4 a month, that's all I'm going to do. The rest I'm just going to ignore, because no one ever does anything. No one ever tells me what's happening. So what's the point? It also gives workers a great understanding of that WHS process when they participate in it. The best way to learn is by doing. So if they fill out a hazard report, whether it's a paper report, digital report, and they see it goes off and they see some activity and they get feedback, yep, thanks for your report, we're actioning it. And then a month later, they get more communication, say, yeah, we've actioned it, we've resolved your issue, hopefully you're happy with this, this is what we've come up with. They'll go, oh, I see the process now, my report goes here, then these people, and they're more likely to participate in that process when they understand it. So some key tips to take away. Make the process manageable. So if you're not required if a step's not required for your organisation, i.e. the committee or the health and safety representatives, you don't need to wedge it in there if it's not required, as long as you're still doing that consultation and getting that worker buy-in and communicating vital information to them. Keep it as simple as possible. Don't reinvent the wheel. You don't need to come up with whole new messaging platforms. There's plenty of stuff out there that you can use right away. Integrate it with the business activities. So basically, make sure it suits your organisation. Make sure it suits the type and the nature of the work that you're doing, and suits the demographic of the people you're trying to communicate with. Achieve that buy-in from workers. And I said the best way is to make them feel included in the process by communicating. Yep, thanks for your report. This is what we're going to do about it. Hey, have a look. We'll resolve the issue you raised. Effective reporting. Record as much as possible. Paper trails as much as possible. You don't want it to come down to, God forbid something happens, you find yourself in a prosecution, you don't want it to come down to his word against his word. That's not a situation you want to find yourself in. And on the other way, effective reporting from management to workers on, hey, you guys have raised 27 hazards last month and we resolved 26 of them. One's outstanding because of we're waiting for an electrician to come and we couldn't book one in that time period, and the electrician will be here. That kind of reporting back to the workers, again, will get that buy-in. And ensure things are actually done. Again, if workers are raising issues and nothing's done to resolve these, they'll just stop. You go, well, what's the point? Right? So you got to have that effective action. And that's why it's very hard when a committee meets once every 3 months and resolutions are only passed then. Workers just get sick of waiting. Well, hang on, I raised this issue. I've got to wait 3 months now to hear an answer. By the time 3 months comes around, chances are they've probably forgotten the issue they've raised. Like, what do you talk? Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter to them anymore. It's not important. So prompt, effective action is key to success. And remember, lastly, just remember, there's no solution of a one-size-fits-all. each situation is going to be different for each organization. The requirements are going to be different. So the various little bits that you implement for consultation, if you don't want to go with the traditional systems, are going to be different. The best thing I can do to advise you is document them. Have a procedure that clearly says, this is how we will do consultation, and then just list. As long as you then comply and you use those methods, you will be compliant. You're compliant to your own procedure. Those of you with various external certifications, you might have additional requirements placed on you as part of that certification. But in general terms, as long as you stick to your system and you can show that you are consulting and communicating with your workers in whatever way it suits you and them, then you are compliant. All right, and just lastly, at the end of the Q&A, I don't know if you guys saw, as you registered, you've all been entered into a prize pool to win a $100 Prezi voucher. So at the end of the Q&A, we will draw that, and Bree from our marketing department will grab your details and get in touch with you on how to claim that. So open the floor up for questions. I think Chi's going to manage the questions for us, and I will endeavour to answer them as best I can for you.
Thanks, Nick. That was excellent. And like I said at the start, I think you've nailed it in terms of really emphasising that everyone's going to be very different in terms of what is the right way to consult in their own workplace. You provided the good content there, the different options, and as well as the disclosure that you're not selling any particular platform, which is great. So no, I think it's really good and simple, useful information that's shared today. Whilst there might be some questions coming through, I just thought I'd run a couple past you, Nick. You mentioned around the importance of and monitoring. So doing internal audits as well as external audits can be of benefit. If we're considering multiple types of media, whether it's intranets, Teams, or even SMSs, how can we collate that as evidence that that's been collated, or that people have acknowledged that they've received the message, that they've understood it, and whether they've been given a chance to ask questions? I mean, I'm just mindful of, again, the various types of handy bits of technology we can rely on. So in those circumstances, how can we show you, just say you came in and done an audit to show you that that's what we've done, because I'm telling you that's what we've done. How can I show you that as evidence?
Yep. So the great thing about digital platforms like Teams or WhatsApp is they actually log time, date of this was posted, and you can show an auditor. So look, physically here it is. On emails and things like that, you can set up read receipts and receive receipts. So it will actually tell you that, yes, that email's hit that inbox and that person has looked at it. It's creating that sort of evidence and that paper trail behind it. Again, not everything needs to be evidenced. There can be unofficial discussions. Not every discussion has to be documented. But when you are documenting them, I think the digital platforms really go ahead. So I've just recently gone through a certification audit with a company who use WhatsApp and Teams in combination to communicate and consult with their workers. And the auditor literally just brought up the safety chat on the screen to show times and dates and workers and answers to workers and closeout of hazards. WhatsApp, again, great. It literally shows who's seen that message in the chat. In a group chat, it'll show, yep, this message has been seen by these people. And most other platforms do that as well, from my experience.
And you mentioned around reflecting your procedures, your processes into your procedures. So again, if I am using multiple types of media, WhatsApp, SurveyMonkey, etc., do we need to be really specific with reflecting that in our procedures, or can we just be quite sort of general in terms of we will communicate via varying media types of media?
Yeah. So you got to find a balance between specific and general, because if you can write yourself into a corner like that with a procedure, Because if you specifically write in there, we're going to use Teams and this and that, and messaging goes out on another channel that you then didn't update your procedure because the new platforms come along, well, you're actually non-compliant to your system then, because you've specifically said we're going to use this. But if you say we're going to use a digital platform that allows for time and date tracking and visibility as to who used it, you can put that in there and write, for example, WhatsApp, Teams, and give a few different examples. Then if you're using a digital platform, well, you're compliant. I've said I'm going to use a digital platform. I'm using a digital platform. I wouldn't just say, yeah, we're going to message it out somehow. That's too general. So yeah, you got to find that balance between specificity and generality. Otherwise, you can write yourself into a corner where you're going to be going back and updating your procedures at every little systemic change that you make. And you don't want to create that extra work if not required.
No worries. I've got a legal question for you.
Sure.
I'm gonna pass on Tracy's comment, but a legal question around Victoria. So certainly mindful of the Uniform WHS Act across all states except for Victoria. Does anything change in terms of if I'm running a multinational business or an Australia-wide business that operates in Victoria? Do I need to consider anything differently for Victoria around the consultation requirements?
Not really. If you're compliant, because the Model Act was based on the Victorian Act, so they are very similar, besides some changes in terminology. The consultation principles are the same. Again, the pillar in Australian WHS is you must consult on safety issues, on risk issues, and things like that. So as long as you can prove that you're doing that and you're complying with any additional requirements that you might have through certification stuff, no, you'll be fine in any state.
No worries. And Tracy, thanks very much for the comment there. So yeah, some good insights there from Tracy. We appreciate you sharing those. Record everything to cover yourself is your final line there, which I absolutely agree with. Working with different businesses and auditors, it's always good to over document and record everything. So screenshots, something that I'm certainly I use a lot in terms of the littlest form of capturing information to show as evidence to, if it's an SMS or even the evidence trail around call logs and things like that. These are things because again, if we can't show that we've actually done them, it didn't happen, and therefore the consultation is able to be provided from a compliance perspective.
Yeah,
no
definitely,
worries.
Tracy, couldn't agree more. I'm a big one. Even when I talk to someone on the phone, I will then send them an email with a summary of that conversation, right? Because it automatically creates, like you said, an evidence trail. Yeah, and that's why I love these digital platforms, because they log everything.
Yeah,
and
I love Mary's comment there around there really should be a two-way street, and I absolutely agree. It's not about us telling you about how to work safely. It certainly should be an open-ended platform to allow people to speak up if they disagree. We need to obviously acknowledge that and consult further around getting a common agreement. We're never going to please everyone. I must say that, and that's again working with organizations across all industries. There's always going to be someone that might not agree, and that's okay. This is why the consultation process needs to be followed and needs to be applied in a customized approach to ensuring that the audience is given the opportunity to talk about that there. No worries.
Yeah, that's something I touched on when I was describing the old committee, is even without being heavy on management representation, workers can see it's sort of becoming a management body, and it becomes almost a dictation to them. Well, yeah, because they don't understand the process. They don't understand that that's their representative arguing there for them. They come back, whether it's the committee dictating to me or the manager dictating to me, I'm still being dictated to.
No worries. One more from me. I've worked with many organizations that have varying barriers with some of the audience, whether that be non-English speaking backgrounds or literacy issues. Nick, just give us a final tip on At what point do we have to start to get or consider translators or putting induction guys or toolbox talks into different languages? When do we have to really consider catering for that?
Yeah, sure. Look, through talking to people and communicating with them regularly, your workers or your particular work group, you get a sense. I quickly get a sense: is this person actually understanding me, or they're just nodding along? And then they're going to go ask someone else. Again, monitor workers after the meeting. If you've had a meeting where you've delivered a safety message and you see, certain people, whether they have a language barrier or it is, then going to other people and going, "Hey, what did they just say?" That's a big indicator that you need to translate. Again, trend analysis is a big thing. If you've said to people repeatedly, don't do this because it's dangerous, and you see people continually doing it, continually not complying with the safety direction, it might not be that they can't be bothered. They might just be that they can't understand it. So there's definitely warning signs, red flags to look out for like that.
No, that's great. That's great. All right. Well, no worries. Well, Nick, on behalf of the audience and safety partners, thank you very much for your informative session. I know I'm particularly grateful in being able to work with you on a day-to-day basis. Things like this really enable us to share and further reach our audience to assist at the end of the day. So you've been able to apply and very, very useful tips out there. If there's any other questions, again, following today, feel free to reach out to us. You've got our details there. You can drop an email. You can send any questions on this chat following disclosure now. Again, thank you. And if you haven't already registered for our further webinars, please jump in onto our website and have a look about around what sort of topics are available there. Yeah, we'd love to see you there and invite your colleagues, and yeah, let's get sharing some information. And the one goal is to continuously improve. Thank you so much.
Hang on, Chi. I've just got to announce our winner.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course.
Yes, I believe a copy of the webinar will be available. And you're right, Tracy. It does stipulate that's the Model Act. So everywhere does stipulate there shouldn't be more than 50% management. All right, just randomly scrolling down the list, and congratulations. Where's it going to stop? Congratulations, Christine. You are our winner.
$100 Prezi voucher coming your way, so spend that wisely. Might even want to get yourself a microphone or a megaphone to be able to communicate that information out on the floor. Then all jokes aside, yeah, thank you so much for attending, and yeah, we look forward to providing that to you. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.